Yes, it's finally here. Lian Li Q58 miniITX case with 14.5 liters of capacity, and wow, just wow, what we have here is outstanding. And not because Lian Li, not because of anything in particular, but just because of the first of the design. I won't lie, it looks really slick, clean design, elegant, and it's quite small, 14.5 liters, and the dimensions are quite alright for a nice subtle desk build, and you can still pack loads of stuff inside. So let's start with some main specifications. We have a quite interesting design when it comes to modularity, of course. First of all, to access everything, you have to take the top cover off, and basically everything is on pegs, magnets, or maybe you have a couple of screws, and by that I mean power supply, motherboard, and the GPU. That would be most likely it. We have front panel which is two-toned. One is matte finish and the other one is brushed aluminum, and it really does look quite nice because it goes along with the two-side tempered glass and two-side meshed part. So you can switch it because they have hinges on both sides, on top and the bottom, on left and right side, and you can go with loads of diversity as you wish. Now let's check what we got inside. First of all, we have a quite interesting hot swappable possibility for 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive right on the front. And the cool thing is you already have cables running from it, so you can just attach, well, connect your SSD to your motherboard, and you need a SATA power to connect your SSD on front. On top you have also a bracket for a 3.5-inch hard drive or 2.5-inch SSD, and you can mount an AIO up to 280 or 240. I wanted to place a 280 AIO, but the issue is the length of the radiator was too big, and the parts where you screw the top chassis in the case were actually blocking the possibility to place the AIO inside. Now, of course, the 240 is quite alright and it can fit nicely, and you have a nice offset possibility with screws attaching it to the top and giving it a bit of a wiggle space on top and adjusting it comparing to the bottom part. Now, comparing it to 011 Mini, which I know most of you had an issue with no support for ATX power supply. This case right here, 14.5 liters, I'm going to mention it again, can support an SFX power supply or an ATX power supply. It depends on your wishes, and you can just switch the brackets. It's quite easy because you just remove the bracket for the power supply, mount the power supply, and just attach screws to hold the power supply in place. Rerouting the cables is also quite easy, and there are actually loads of space, especially if you're using Lian Li SP750, which has nicely braided cables in black. So 24 pin, 2 8-pin EPS, and 2 8-pin, even 3 8-pin PCI Express, but you can do whatever you wish. Now, the case is divided into two compartments. One side is strictly dedicated for your GPU, and the other one is for your power supply and your miniITX board. The compartment for the GPU actually can accommodate a GPU up to 320 millimeters of length, giving you a possibility with loads of different cards, and basically the only thing that might be blocking a couple of more millimeters of space is the front panel. Now, the front panel is quite straightforward. You have the power on button, you have 3.5 millimeter jack 4-pin, and you have USB Type-C and USB 3.0. The PCI Express expansion slot go up to 3 slots, so you can go with the newer cards without any issues. You just need to take into consideration the length of 320 millimeters. Now, right here I placed the ASRock Radeon RX 5700 BIOS changed XT Challenger, which fits without a doubt, without a problem, so that's not an issue. Right here I also placed the AIO 240, which cools the processor, and actually I used here a 10700K just to compare some results with different cases, of course. At the bottom we have another mounting for your 2.5-inch hard drive or SSD, which is also outstanding. So modularity, when it comes to possibility to remove parts, you can remove the front panel, you can remove the top panel, side panels. You have 4 of them with only 2 thumb screws and 4 hinges. You just pop them out and place them back in. It's really straightforward, and honestly I was thinking there's going to be some problems when it comes to building, but if you take your time and do everything precisely as you should, there won't be any problems whatsoever. The case looks really nice, and there's also a possibility for you guys to add 2 diffused LED strips if you decide to go with those kind of things, one on top and one at the bottom. And well, if you're thinking about cable management and if you're thinking about what power supply should I use, definitely go with an SFX just because of the length of the cables, but you do have enough space to reroute them. Now with the SP750, the cables are just enough for 8-pin EPS, for the GPU and for the 24-pin cable, so you won't have any issues. We're still talking about cables, right? You have a possibility to reroute the PWM and the addressable RGB headers. At the back you have a small door that you can access just by popping it out with the magnetic, and you have a possibility to connect 3 addressable RGB headers and 3 PWM headers. This is really cool because only 2 cables come out of that controller directly to your motherboard, and you can control it through your BIOS or any other software that might be able to control fans and of course addressable RGB through your motherboard. Now let's talk about temperatures. I did all the variations that are possible with this case, swapping all the side panels, giving the tempered glass on the GPU, tempered glass on the CPU, mesh parts and everything. So for the standard position of the side panels, the CPU was actually quite interesting. So we have the Intel Core i7-10700K going up to 67 Celsius degrees. The GPU went up to 80 Celsius degrees, but then again I mentioned that in the other video that this GPU has some thermal issues, and I think the GPU would go around 75. If we place both meshed panels on the GPU side, the CPU goes up to 70 Celsius degrees, the GPU lowers down to 75. Now, if you place the meshed panels on the CPU side, the CPU goes up to 72 and the GPU goes up to 86 Celsius degrees. This is just because there's no air for the GPU, and how it heats up the radiator as well, and the CPU goes up. And if you place the meshed part on top and the tempered glass on bottom, we have the CPU going up to 73 Celsius degrees and the GPU up to 83 Celsius degrees. Now this is all done in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition benchmark with stress testing it on full load, and most of you guys will, if you're using it under full load, you'll be most likely rendering some things up to 10, 12, 15 minutes. And that'll be quite alright. But if you're gaming, the CPU will go up to 60 to 65 Celsius degrees and the GPU will go up to 70 Celsius degrees, since it won't be stress tested at full load. I'm quite excited about this case because in 14.5 liter chassis you can place loads of stuff with modularity, with the possibilities, AIO that fits quite nicely, and the only maybe issue, if I could say it like that, is to check out the pipes of the AIO and how to somehow attach them so they don't get in the way of the side panel. Quite interesting, definitely. Lian Li did it again with the Q58, quite interesting, elegant case. You have 2 variations, you have white and the black version. The black version has a slightly tinted tempered glass, while the white one has a clear tempered glass. And you have a possibility to order the PCI Gen 3 riser or PCI Gen 4 riser. So when you're picking your case, do check for those so you don't order the wrong one, of course. So the black version with PCI Gen 3 is $120 US and the white version is $130. And the black version with PCI Gen 4 is $150 and the white version is $160. So even though this price might be a bit higher for the miniITX case with this size, I would say that with all the possibilities, modularity, and doing the case as you wish, basically changing panels, modularity when it comes to placing the top 120, 140 AIO or 280, 240 SSDs, hard drives, and all the other stuff. I think this is quite alright. So guys, thank you for watching today's video about Lian Li Q58. You can check the links below for more information. And finally, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button for the Q58 finally, and also don't forget to check the notification bell for future content. Thank you for watching today's video. Hopefully I will see you in another one. Bye bye.